Bake with us, Canada. This week's guest baker is Chef Nicole from Meals Without Madness. And this week's recipe is for Raspberry White Chocolate Scones.
We're back with another episode of Baking for Change. I'm your host, Wendy Pauls, and this is a special episode for me today because this is the first time that the guest baker is a friend of mine. This is super cool. This is Chef Nicole with Meals Without Madness, which is a great name, by the way, because we've all experienced madness in the kitchen before. So welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. And please take a couple minutes and tell us about you, about your business. What would you like us to know?
So I have owned and operated Meals Without Madness in Waterloo region since 2013. So exciting milestone happened for me in May, which was my business turned 10.
Oh, congratulations.
So thank you so
awesome.
much.
Yeah.
And over that time, it has really changed, expanded. Things have become like there's lots of advantages to having a personal chef business because I really don't have to be in a box. I'm a mobile business on a lot of fronts, so that's a lot of fun. So when Meals Without Madness first started, I was a personal chef. Going into clients' homes, I work with a lot of dietary restrictions, medical conditions, things like that was kind of my starting point. Mostly born out of needs for my own family who struggled with health conditions, allergies, things like that. And you can't just go to some of the convenience items. And so my heart and passion was to really help families to, one, have less stress around meal times. I was privileged enough to be a stay-at-home mom for 5 years with my kids. And during that time, I was supporting and helping my family and my parents with getting dinner on the table in time. Literally, my mom would drop a roast off at my house in the morning and come home at night and pick it up to have for dinner.
That sounds like a dream.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's kind of how the dream got started for me. And then I went and got my culinary training, and then things just kind of expanded from there.
Amazing. So I know you're transitioning your business right now.
Yes.
With a bit of a different focus.
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about where you're headed.
So as I said, my business has expanded and has been doing different things. And one of the things I've just really found I'm super passionate about is teaching. So I'm excited to be here teaching a recipe today. I made a transition into doing more virtual classes, things online during COVID, as many of us did. And but I love that I get to work with a lot of quality organizations and just such a huge variety. Like I've done life skills with like the Waterloo Wellington Down Syndrome Society. I've even done some work with CNIB and the Independent Living Center a number of years ago, teaching life skills. And so I'm super passionate about that. I do classes from kids to adults and like family oriented classes, which is something I hear a lot is just not super represented in the region, is doing stuff as a family. And as a mom of 4, it's near and dear to my heart to spend time in the kitchen with our families. So I get to do that. And if I can take a minute to share one other thing that I'm really excited to be doing is since 2016, I've been teaching an entrepreneurship personal chef curriculum. I am working right now on adjusting the program to make it a modular approach, bring it online, give it access to way more people. One of the conversations I'm often having with new businesses is people don't know what they don't know sometimes when they get started. Questions come up, and so I'm really hoping to connect with local businesses, entrepreneurs, people who are looking to start a business, have questions, aren't quite sure where to go, mentor and walk alongside them, because as a personal chef, it was kind of a pioneer thing to this area when I started 10 years ago. And so offering some of that support that wasn't available for me when I started my business is something I'm super passionate about. And some of those other niche businesses that don't fall maybe in some of those bigger categories.
Yes, so valuable. That's exciting. So yeah, we're going to be rooting for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
For now, though, our friends watching are hopefully baking. We invite people to bake along with us. We post the ingredient list online ahead of time so they could be watching and kind of working with us. So that's what we hope. And we hope they take pictures and send them in. So tell us what we're going to be making today.
All right, so we are going to be making some raspberry white chocolate scones, which is honestly one of my favorite scones to make. The great thing though about this recipe that we'll talk about as we go through is you can almost treat it similar to like a marble slab ice cream, and that you can do different mix-ins, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So it's kind of a base recipe, and then you can alter a lot of the ingredients. So you're kind of starting with a base, but you can change it up. So if you want to do chocolate chip or you want to do blueberry, I do recommend you stay away from like strawberries and some of the really more fruits that have more water content, because it doesn't result in a good end product. So stick with like your berries and things like that that have a little bit firmer and don't have as much water in them.
So what are we starting with? And talk us through the ingredients as we go.
Absolutely. So the first thing we're starting with here is I've pre-measured 2 cups of all-purpose flour. So that's what we're starting with. And to that, we are going to add our 1/2 cup of sugar. So we're going to put our sugar in. And then to that, we're gonna add a little pinch of salt. Do you wanna go ahead and just add that? I'm using Himalayan sea salt, but it doesn't have to be. Any salt that you have at home is fine. So we're not really gonna measure this. It says it 1/2 teaspoon on the recipe, but if you just wanna give a good pinch to that,
all right.
That would be great.
Let's pinch.
Cool.
Awesome.
All right. And then I have here baking powder. This recipe has a pretty considerable amount of baking powder in it. We're going to do 2.5 teaspoons.
Oh, that is
okay. So, but it's going to make it really light and puffy, and it's going to be just fantastic. So we're going to 1, 2, and I'm just going to do eyeball it.
Look at you eyeballing it, risk taker. And now
what? If you want to just give that a little whisk, we want to just distribute our leavening, our baking powder throughout all of the flour.
Don't want lumps or bites of, it would taste really bitter.
Yes.
Great.
That's great.
Great, good.
Yeah, that's perfect. All right, and next up, we're gonna do our butter. So this is a trick that I have been using.
I love tricks.
That is really great because our hands are very warm, and in recipes where we want those light flaky pockets, like airiness in our recipe, like when you're making a flaky pie crust, the secret is to not let your ingredients heat up. So I'm going to use, like normally I would have this butter in the freezer before the recipe. So I did have it in the fridge until right before we're going to start.
Okay, so you do not want this room temperature.
You do not want this room temperature.
Okay,
yes.
Got it.
And then you're going to grate it in. So this is 1/2 cup of butter. And then we're just going to grate this right into our flour.
This is a new trick. We have not seen this trick to date.
Now we're going to get our hands in here and we're going to mix it. The key, as we said, we want to keep that butter as cold as possible. So what I like to do is I'm just going to work my fingers in and kind of like you're giving the flour a little massage. That's how I like to describe it. Is you're just kind of like...
Will the flour give me a massage? That's the question.
Oh, I don't think so, but yeah. So you're just going to kind of gently work it so that all the butter is coated in flour and it's in small, you want it like a shaggy, like the dough to be a little bit shaggy and mixed in. So that's what you're working on. And we want to work quickly so that we're not overheating our ingredients. So that is about as much as you're going to want to mix it. So you can kind of see it's shaggy there.
Yeah. All you home bakers, we hope that you have been baking along with us, and we would love to see your photos. Take a photo and send it to contact@bakingforchange.ca. We might feature it on the show, on the website, on social media. So send in those photos today. So we have our shaggy butter and flour mixture, and walk us through the next step.
So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to mix our liquid ingredients just to make it really easy, because we're going to kind of drizzle it over the top of our mixture. So we're going to make that really easly by doing it into the measuring cup. So if you want to go ahead and crack our egg, our one egg into there, that would be fantastic. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add in our 1/2 cup of milk.
Okay.
All right, if you want to add a teaspoon of that as well. And
do you do a teaspoon or do you do a cap?
I usually do the cap.
Yeah, we should do the cap too. Look at that.
Our fancy measuring skills at Back at Work.
That's right. Look at that. Yeah, that works.
All right. Yeah, and then so if you just want to give that a little whisk.
Okay. Listen to that sound. What a great sound. Oh, and I love the smell of vanilla.
Oh, absolutely. That looks
Good.
great. Absolutely. Okay. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to drizzle this over the top. So we're just going to kind of pour
Okay, so
it.
what's the purpose? Like explain drizzling versus like dumping it.
I just want to spread it more evenly across the top as opposed to just kind of dumping it all in the center well, because we don't want to overmix this. All right, so do you want to go ahead and just give that a little mix?
Sure.
So yeah, so you just want to gently bring it till it just comes together and you don't see any white flour. Like you can kind of see the colors changing a little bit with the cream and the milk. So once that starts to be incorporated, then we are gonna add in our raspberries and our white chocolate, and then we're gonna be ready to get them onto the parchment paper, which gets to the best part, which is the baking.
And then the tasting.
And then the tasting, yes. And then we're gonna add in our 3/4 cup of white chocolate chips. We want everyone to have a successful baking experience, right? No matter what their favorite toppings are. All right, do you wanna do the raspberries there? Just pour those in. So we have 1 cup of frozen raspberries. You can absolutely use fresh raspberries in this recipe as well. But you wanna make sure your frozen raspberries are still frozen. Okay, because they're gonna get,
thaw them.
Do not thaw them first. Take them right out of the freezer, measure them, and in they go.
UNICEF. The change part of the Baking for Change name means that in addition to baking yummy treats, you can also donate a little money to UNICEF Canada to help make change. The Baking for Change website has a direct link you can use to make a donation, and you can even ask for a tax receipt. There are lots of great charities out there, but we chose to support UNICEF Canada because when we were kids, we collected change for them in those little orange boxes every Halloween. Maybe you did too, and it still seems like the perfect fit for us, even if it's virtual now. Giving to UNICEF is a tradition. People like Elizabeth Montgomery, who played Samantha Stevens on Bewitched, Jim Henson and Kermit the Frog, and even the Brady Bunch supported UNICEF, and we think you should too. The United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, or UNICEF, was established in 1946 in the aftermath of World War II. Their mandate was clear: to help children and young people whose lives and futures were at risk, no matter what role their country played in the war. This is the DNA of UNICEF. From the ashes of war to the global challenges that affect millions today, their mandate has never wavered. UNICEF consistently works to protect the rights and well-being of all children, whoever they are, wherever they live. They've earned our trust and deserve your support.
Now, earlier you talked about recording some videos. Can people watch those videos, like your instructional videos? Are they available? Yeah.
Absolutely. So if you go to the City of Kitchener's YouTube channel, during COVID, I was doing a lot of stuff with the Kitchener Market. There's tons of demo videos out there, both cooking and baking. And on the Facebook channel, you can find a lot more of the kids baking stuff. So if you want to bake with your kids, and the ingredients and recipes are all posted there, so that you can check that out as well.
Awesome.
Great. Yeah, this looks really good. I definitely would not want to add any more moisture to this. So I will kind of just get this last little bit.
Still to look crumbly.
Yes.
We don't want it to look, like I said, like a batter.
No.
It's way more crumbly than that.
Yeah, especially for a drop scone.
Okay.
If you wanted to cut this into shapes, you would have to kind of work the dough so it actually holds together, because that's the only way you're gonna be able to cut it. But I really like the drop scone. I like all the crispy bits you get on the end when you do it this way.
You're making me hungry.
So basically, you just wanna make sure kind of all your raw flour has been incorporated. So all that really bright white, if you see any of that, you just wanna give it a little bit of a mix. And like I said, baking is a messy job, but you know, that's how it goes.
This is looking beautiful.
Thank you so much. I just absolutely love that raspberry, the color that it brings.
Oh,
and
it's
then,
so pretty.
Yeah, the white chocolate just brings it over the top. What we're gonna do now is I'm gonna just take my tablespoon, my big tablespoon. I find it easier than using a measuring cup because it kind of gets stuck in the cup normally. And so you're just gonna take that and use your other spoon and if you're at home, you can definitely just
do.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Okay.
So we just want to we want to leave some space because these are going to double in size in the oven. So when you're thinking about how big you're making them, just know normally this recipe will yield anywhere from 12 to 16 scones, depending on how large you're making them. Sometimes they only make 8, which is usually just enough for my family and for me to sneak one and, you know, maybe save one for later.
Maybe.
Yeah, so really you're just kind of going to, and literally it's a drop scone. So you're just going to drop it on.
Love that.
Yeah, so do you want to give that a try?
Sure. Great. Yeah, how big of a scoop?
Yeah, about like that.
Like that?
Yeah, for sure. We'll make them big today.
All right. Right about here.
Yeah, that looks great. For
apart.
This, I would do between 8 to 12, depending. If I think I can squeeze one more over in that side, I will. If you're not sure for your first time, just leave a little bit more room and maybe just get a second baking tray, which is totally fine.
I feel like that one's a little bit smaller.
That's okay.
I am a beginner, so, you know, don't expect perfection. And I'm under pressure. I'm being watched by a professional.
You are doing a fantastic job. Yes.
Thank you. Making me feel good about myself.
What you're going to want to do is preheat your oven to 400 degrees. Okay, so that's where you want to be baking these. You want it to be nice and hot. And it's going to be anywhere from like 15 to 18 minutes. Obviously, that's going to depend on how large you've made your scones. Basically, you're looking for them to be nice and golden brown on the outside. And you'll definitely be able to tell that they're finished. Okay, you can prick them with a toothpick like we do with cupcakes and muffins and things like that. But the key is those golden brown crispy edges that you're going to get because of the way that we're making them.
Can't wait. So our scones are in the oven. I'm smelling them. You can't smell them. I wish you could smell them. But we're going to work on making some lemon curd.
Yes, we're going to do lemon curd. All right, so here what we're going to do here is first we're going to separate 6 egg yolks.
So we've got our egg yolks in the pot.
Yes, we do.
I see you holding a lemon. Yes. Interesting combo. Okay, what are we doing?
So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna grate our lemon zest. So you want the zest of 1 lemon, but you're gonna have the juice of 2. So we just want to take the lemon zest. You want to be very careful to not get any of the white. It's very bitter. So you always want to just be aware of just getting the yellow of the peel. So if you notice that you're going too far,
I've like
just move to the next
really ground them. My things have probably been so bitter. And I had no idea.
I'm sure it turned out just fine.
I didn't notice.
Just a little tip.
I'm hoping you're going to teach us a trick about getting lemon juice. Yes?
What I've just decided to do is use a little mesh strainer so that you can just put it directly over top of the pot. Just make sure you have one that's the right size, or even just hold it off to the edge. It's totally fine. And then just give it a squeeze. It's going to keep the seeds from falling in. Yeah. And
see, again, that's like, duh, of course. But you don't always think of it. I think I've squeezed before and then picked seeds out. And
the other option is you could squeeze it into a smaller bowl, and then you could just use a fork, which works really well to scoop them out. So if you do forget, that's a really easy way to do it. Then you're not trying to pick through, especially because we already have our egg yolks in here. So obviously we don't want to have to like go through and pick out our seeds. You can also just squeeze between your fingers, kind of similar to what we were doing with the egg separating. Although it can be a very quick way to find out that you have a cut on your finger.
True.
Yeah. So if I can just get you to hold that there for a second, since it's not quite the right size. And like I said, we do want the juice of 2 lemons in here. And this is going to make about, if you were doing the recipe that we were talking about with tarts, it would make about 12. Next thing we're going to do is add in 3/4 cup of sugar into here. And the great thing about this recipe as well is it's a 1 pot. So we don't have lots of dishes. It's just
we like that.
Everything pretty much into the pot. If you're looking at lemon curd recipes, some of them will also tell you to add the butter now, because that's going to be our last ingredient. So you can see there's not too many ingredients in lemon curd.
No.
Right? It's like a 5 ingredient. We've got
pretty simple.
Lemon juice, lemon zest, sugar, and then we're going to finish it up with some butter. So I like to add butter at the end because it can actually help to cool it down. You know what I was saying, if it starts to get a little too hot too quickly, it's a great way. And I like it as a nice finishing. It gives it really a velvety texture. So I like to do that separately, but you can definitely put everything in the pot and cook it. But my preference is to do it like this.
I'm going to do it your way.
So we're just going to turn on our little oven here. I'm going to move this stuff out of the way so we can just focus on this.
Perfect. Goody Goody is a nonprofit bakery offering training and jobs for refugee youth. And here's some exciting news. If you visit our website, you can find the dates and times for our pop-up bakery, where you can stop in and buy some delicious treats for yourself and support a great cause. The location of our pop-up bakery is Community Christian Reformed Church on Bleems Road in Kitchener. So visit the website today. So we've been at this for a few minutes and I noticed something. So we were adjusting the temperature, started at like medium, took it up a little bit, but then it heated up just like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so what should we be watching for when making it?
You want to see it go, it was very liquidy, you saw at the beginning,
Yep.
with our egg yolks and lemon juice, and you can see now how it has changed and it's much thicker. You would want it to be what in culinary terms we call like nappe, which is going to mean to coat. It coats the back of a spoon. Actually, if you don't mind, I'll borrow your wooden spoon from back here.
And see if it's nappe.
And one of the things that you're looking for is when it coats the back of the spoon. Now, obviously this is pretty hot, so I'm gonna give this a second to cool down on the spoon. But what you're looking for is when you drag your finger down the back of the spoon, if it does not go back together, then you have the right consistency.
Oh my goodness. Look what we're learning here today.
Okay, that's a great spot right there. So we've turned the heat off, and now what we're gonna do to also help is we're gonna add in our 2 tablespoons of butter. So again, our fractions from earlier.
Ah, yes. Okay, so how did you figure out 2 tablespoons? Give us sort of the breakdown.
Yeah, so we had, give me one quick second, I'm just gonna wipe the lemon curd off of my fingers from showing you the nappe.
The nappe.
That's another little thing, is always have a towel or something like near you to like wipe off your hands, wipe off any surfaces that you have. So I took our half a cup that was left, I cut that in half and then cut each of those in half. I cut these into smaller pieces because it's just gonna help it incorporate faster. And like I said, this is gonna help to drop the temperature a little bit to keep it from turning brown and cooking more than we want it to. And it's also gonna help to set that lemon curd. It's gonna be a good way to help it firm up.
So good. Great. Yeah, starting to melt in there. I'm guessing I can't like over stir. That's not a problem.
Definitely not. And so if you have a little bit of a stirring need, which I love to stir things.
I'm liking it. It's sort of therapeutic.
It really can be. It just is like you're just able to just whisk away and just concentrate on that again. Yeah. Especially if at this point you could take it off of the heat to incorporate that, just to make sure. We've worked so hard to not get any browning on the bottom, any of those
really
eggs.
Hard.
You definitely have. So we don't want to lose any of that by letting it stay on the heat for too long.
Whisk your problems away.
Absolutely.
So cheesy.
No, I love it. I absolutely love that. I think we have a really good consistency here. As it cools, it's going to get much, much thicker. So we are going to serve this cold. As I said, you could add heavy cream to this, use it like a sauce.
After it's cold?
Even if you were to do it warm, you would, if you're going to add any cream or liquid when you have something that is warm and hot like this, you definitely want to use like your 35% whipping cream. That higher fat content, I always say, is pretty much indestructible. It's one of the things I really like to use when I'm doing like kids classes or some of those things, because it tends to be a little more forgiving. That fat content is really helpful. If you're using a half and half or something like that, you're going to want to heat your half and half on the stove separately so that you're not giving that big temperature exchange, which is what's going to make it break and curdle. If you add a really hot liquid to, a cold liquid to something really hot, it's going to split, separate, curdle. It's going to be very unpleasant. So
and even though it's curd, we don't want it to curdle.
No curdle.
Go figure.
Exactly.
Go figure.
Exactly. Yeah, but you can also, as we talked about earlier, if you made whipped cream, you could fold it in, make it a mousse, or you can leave the curd just how it is, make whipped cream to put on top.
Maybe you've noticed previously that my favorite part of the show is always the tasting part, and we're getting darn close.
Absolutely.
We've got these beautiful scones out of the oven, cooled, and I see you've got another step we're going to take here. Tell us about it.
I do. So this is definitely not a step that you need to do, but it's a great little finisher. What you're going to do is I just simply have about a cup of icing sugar here and a little bit of water. You can use milk or cream, totally fine. I do always recommend you want to add very slowly. You cannot take it back out. And it is very, no, definitely not. And if it happens, honestly, if you add too much liquid to it, what I suggest is kind of get more icing sugar on the side, add this into it. Trying to add icing sugar into it if it's too much, it's going to take you forever and way more volume.
Makes sense.
I bet you can't tell that I've had some mishaps in the kitchen by all my tips.
No, but you know, it's a great reminder in life. Like we learn most from our mistakes.
Absolutely,
right? And that applies
100%.
to the kitchen as well, right?
You can see how quickly and easily that came together.
Yes.
You could add a little bit of vanilla if you wanted to, or you can add, this is a great glaze actually for like sugar cookies, other things like that. And you can add a little bit of clear cornstarch. It sets up really nicely on cookies and things like that.
Is that what makes it like have that shiny finish?
Yeah. So that's a great tip. So you basically want it to be a little bit pourable, not too stiff, but you don't want it running everywhere. You want it to stay on your scones. And if you want to do a really pretty plate presentation, you could definitely put this on the plate and then drizzle it over top. My favorite is to just kind of get right in there, hold it over your scones, obviously, so we don't waste any of that delicious drizzle. And then you're just gonna drizzle it.
Yeah, speaking of mishaps, I tried doing some drizzling on a previous episode with chocolate and didn't look quite so pretty. It was a bit blobby.
Okay.
So are you trying to, set me up here?
Not at all. I have every confidence you can do it.
Yeah.
And just drag it back and forth. Just like that.
Oh, that's better than the chocolate did.
Great.
There we go.
It's all about that consistency with it, that it's runny enough that it moves, but that it's not going to just melt off. And that's why having them cooled as well is a really good thing. If you added this really early on, when they're too warm, it's just going to melt. I mean, you're still it's going to taste good, but you're not going to get that nice drizzle on top.
No, there. That was better than
That
the
was
chocolate.
fantastic.
That was better. See, I've made progress already.
Great.
It is now the best part of the show. If you've been baking along with us at home, you can join us in the tasting part. So will you join me?
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm going to grab the one in front of me here. And I'm going to just cheers. Okay. Cheers. Okay. I'm talking with my mouth full. Don't do this, children. Bad manners. First bite. Way more delicious than I even anticipated.
Oh, great. Wow.
Texture, amazing. Raspberries, chocolate, oh my goodness. Yeah, you've got to try this recipe. Got to try it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing this, the lemon curd recipe, all the tips. So helpful for people with less experience in the kitchen. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and I really do hope that people bake along with us and share some photos and all of that stuff. My favorite part is just connecting with people through food, and what better way than through some raspberry white chocolate scones.
Oh, I agree.
Thanks for watching, and see you next time on Baking for Change. Special thanks to Wendy Pauls and Chef Nicole from Meals Without Madness and Community Christian Reformed Church.